Good afternoon. The hearing subcommittee will come to order. Thank all of you for joining us here today. Before we begin with today's hearing, I wanted to address the current allegations regarding patient wait times and veterans dying while waiting care from the Veterans Administration. Like all Americans, I am deeply saddened and disturbed by this ever-increasing scandal that is eating away at Americans' confidence in the VA system. The situation that first arose in Phoenix, Arizona seems to be expanding by the day and has even reached my home state of Texas. Last week, I sent a letter to Secretary Shinseki requesting that the VA Inspector General's current investigation also include allegations regarding manufactured wait times and allegations of withheld and or delayed care at the San Antonio, Austin, and Waco VA medical centers. If any of these allegations are found to be true, I expect the Secretary to hold himself, his senior leadership team, and all those responsible accountable. I also expect the Attorney General to file criminal charges should they be warranted. Our veterans have earned the right to the highest quality of health care delivered in a timely manner, and anything else is simply unacceptable to me and to the members of this committee and to all Americans. Now, on to the topic of today's veterans in the energy sector. When one looks at the basic inputs that are required for a robust economy, you will find the following elements: people, financial capital, research and development, intellectual property, energy, a transparent, stable, and fairly enforced rule of law, and a regulatory structure based upon sound science and real-world cost-benefit analyses. Today, we're going to talk about two of the most important of those inputs, people and energy. From time to time, when examining the employment opportunities and training programs for veterans, this subcommittee, along with others, learns about veterans' job opportunities that are available in some of the traditional economic sectors that are experiencing rapid growth. This afternoon, we will examine how to match unemployed veterans with jobs in the energy sector. Not only is this one of the fastest growing sectors of our economy, it is also vital to the stability and strength of our economy and to our national security. Recent growth in this sector has put our nation on a path to be energy secure for the first time in decades. This energy revolution has led to a manufacturing renaissance that is generating attractive job opportunities for hardworking American families that have been hit hard by Washington's failed economic policies. According to the American Enterprise Institute, there has been a 26% increase in new jobs in the energy sector since 2008. Other studies have shown that for every one job that is created in the energy sector, 6 other jobs are created in other segments of our economy. In order to ensure that veterans are not trapped in low-paying careers, it is critical to tap into the skills and abilities that they have already learned while they served our country. We want them to find well-paying jobs that help both the economy and their families. Hardworking veterans are in luck that the entry-level positions in the energy sector are not your average run-of-the-mill, lower-wage jobs. In fact, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average starting salary for oil and gas workers is more than $34,000 a year, and with only a few years' experience, many veterans can earn 6-figure incomes. I believe that, unlike the average citizen, veterans are in a unique position, which makes them an ideal fit for this thriving energy sector. They are highly motivated, results-driven, drug-free, team-oriented, and they know how to get the job done right the first time. As our witnesses will share with us today, and based on my own personal experience with 3 decades in the oil and gas industry, I know firsthand that veterans are a perfect fit for this industry and their career goals. I also want to make it clear that I'm not just talking about growth potential within the oil and gas industry. And as someone who has always believed in all of the above energy strategy, I know that veterans are also great candidates for jobs in all energy sectors, including emerging alternative energy industries. As we all know, the creation of homegrown American energy is not only in the best interest of our economy, but it is also of keen importance to ending our dependence on foreign oil. As I stated earlier, this is a key enabler of a robust economy. Today, we will hear first from a panel of schools and training programs that are preparing veterans for careers in the energy sector. In our second panel, we will highlight some of the energy producers and companies who have shown the way in terms of hiring veterans for quality jobs in the energy sector. With that, I will recognize Ranking Member Mr. Takano for his opening remarks when he arrives. With that, on our first panel today, we have Mr. Wesley Carr, President of PEC Safety, Colonel Randy Wooten, President of the Texas State Technical College in Marshall, Texas, and who retired for the United States Air Force. Colonel, I want to thank you for your service. And last, we have Mr. Tyrone Everett, the East Coast and Mid-Southwest Regional Director for the Center for Unemployment Training. Thank all of you for being here today. Mr. Carr, you're now recognized for 5 minutes. Let's start with you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I wanted to start with just a quick history of what we do, so to explain kind of where we come from. PEC safety was started to standardize safety practices in the oil and gas industry. What was happening was contractors who all worked for the same oil companies were having to go through multiple programs instead of having one that really was standardized, saved time and money. So we have been doing that for several years. It's kind of become the standard for the industry, the Safe Gulf and Safe Land programs that a lot of the industry knows about. In 2000, we decided to start a program that would help people gain employment because we kept hearing from these contractors saying, we don't have people. We can find people, but when we do, they're not trained, that type of thing. What happens in the oil and gas industry is when you train people, because of the nature of the industry, because of regulations, you can spend a good amount of money just getting a guy ready to go to work. If that guy sees a quarter more an hour down the road or finds out this shit really isn't for him, he moves on, and so do all those training dollars that were spent. So what we did is we came up with some programs that we got funded through the WIA, the Workforce Investment Act. Did that through the federal government, but in the state of Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi. And so since 2000, we've been training those people and placing them, and we've got over 80% success rate in placing those guys. A couple years ago, we decided it was time to get something rolling for the veterans. And you know, what's coming up in our industry and what's happening now is what they call the great crew change. You have several thousands of workers who are older, who are now starting to retire, and there's not a good training grounds out there to bring in the next generation. So we decided we were going to do something about it, basically. And so we have a partnership. We started a division of our company called Battlefields to Oil Fields, and we started a partnership with Young Memorial Technical College in South Louisiana. And we put together some programs to help these guys get jobs. And so the way we basically do it is we already know that these veterans have skills that transfer great to the oil and gas industry. They've got the work ethic, they show up on time. Those two things right there will move you up a career ladder in the oil and gas industry, just those two things. The trick, though, is getting your foot in the door. And so the way we've done it, and we've done it with, in fact, in 2013, we had a 95% placement with our veterans. We do that by offering training to them that is valuable, so valuable that it's hard to turn them down, is basically our MO with that. So we're partnered with that program down there in South Louisiana, and we have the ability to place literally as many of these people, as many veterans that want jobs in the oil and gas industry. We have the ability and the contacts to make that happen. Right now, you know, we're limited by basically the rules that are with the proprietary schools and that type of thing. So we're limited on our location, but we are working partnerships right now in Texas, North Dakota, with different technical colleges to be able to open up facilities and where we can use existing facilities to be able to fund these types of these programs across the nation. The jobs are numerous. The amount of money that they can make it's a good bit of money. They make good salaries. We had probably an average of about $40,000 to $60,000 with the ones that we placed, and that's based on a 6-month working year. So in other words, if they're working in shifts, as you know how it works, that's not counting any overtime. When they get to the overtime is where the money really starts piling in. The good news too about all of this is, you know, we're not really putting them in jobs. We're putting them in something that will turn into a career if they put forth the effort. Certifications don't equal jobs, but successful interviews do. And from there, you can turn that job into a career by staying on track. Right now, we have the VA just did an audit on our program. It's actually Young Memorial's program. It's been audited, and there are a few findings. They've suspended it until they get the report back to us. And what we'd like to do is be able to, we're going to make this happen one way or the other. If it's with everyone's cooperation or not, we're dedicated to getting the veterans jobs. We have the companies that want them, and we're going to make that connection one way or the other. But we would like to be able to do it with the VA's assistance and with other various programs that are out there that we're researching currently. So I don't know how this time's going.
Actually,
seem to start over. Did I hit it already?
You're about 30 seconds over. We can give you about 30 seconds to wrap up, and we'll go to Colonel Wooten.
In a nutshell, we have already started reaching out. We have partnerships that we're developing across the country. We have about 15,000 companies that we deal with. But on this level, with the B2O program, or Battlefields Oil Fields, we're partnering in Texas pretty soon, North Dakota, California, and a few other hot spots, basically hitting the Bakken shale, the different shale plays that are out there. Because the jobs are there, we're there to help make that connection.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Appreciate what you're doing. Colonel Wooten, you're recognized for 5 minutes. By the way the lights work, if the light's green, you're within the 5-minute time window. If it's yellow, you've got a minute left. If it's red, we need to wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like my colleague here, I'm going to give a couple of minutes of overview of what TSTC is, and then I'll launch right into it. TSTC was established in 1965 as the James Connolly Technical Institute, part of Texas A&M University. It was located in Central Texas at the former James Connolly Air Force Base in Waco. JCTI separated from A&M University in 1969 and became an independent state system with its own nine-member board and the name of Texas State Technical Institute. In 1991, the Texas legislature elevated the status of TSTI's campuses by designating them a Texas State Technical College. Since its inception, TSTC has grown to include 4 colleges and several off-site teaching locations. TSTC is Texas' only state-supported technical college. The system currently has 4 main campuses: Waco, Harlingen, Marshall, and West Texas. The West Texas location has diverse or geographically dispersed locations in Abilene, Breckenridge, Brownwood, and Sweetwater. TSTC's colleges consistently rank the top producers of associate's degrees in engineering, precision production, computer information systems, computer and information sciences. The Community College Weekly annual report titled Top 100 Associate Degree Producers, TSTC consistently ranks #1 in Texas. TSTC offers more than 150 associates in applied science degrees and certificates and has produced nearly 100,000 graduates in its 49-year history. TSTC Harlingen also offers 7 Associate of Science degrees in biology, computer science, engineering, mathematics, physics, nursing, and healthcare professions. The TSTC student is a diverse group. There are 66% minorities, 57% Hispanic, 9% Black, less than 1% other minorities within that 66%. The rest, 34% are white. The student body is comprised of 40% females and 60% males, and they come from 200 of Texas's 254 counties. And nearly 63% are economically disadvantaged. And now for the veterans part. TSTC is proud to have many veterans in the armed services among its graduates. Of those, many have earned certificates or degrees in instructional programs that support careers in the energy sector. 2 of these are: 1, Sarah Kimball graduated from TSTC West Texas this year with a degree in computer-aided drafting and design technology. She had previously served in the U.S. Air Force, has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Before graduating, Sarah was hired by the Nichols Consulting Group, a multidisciplinary engineering design firm in Midland, Texas, with an above-average starting salary. The second example is an 8-year military veteran, Christopher Bodine, who graduated from TSTC Marshall and also this year as a process operations technician, training which is attractive to a variety of process industries, including chemical, food and beverage, oil exploration, pharmaceutical, power generation, pulp and paper, refining, and wastewater treatment. Christopher transferred to TSTC from another college and upon completion of his degree was hired as a field specialist for Chevron, a worldwide energy company. Veteran enrollment in the current academic year has surpassed 1,000 across all TSTC campuses. Approximately 30% of these students are enrolled in instructional programs that support careers in the energy sector. All TSTC campuses are designated military-friendly schools, which are those in the top 20% nationally and deliver the best experience for our students. Additionally, all TSTC campuses are participants in the Texas College Credit for Heroes initiative. This initiative is a sponsorship or a partnership between the Texas Workforce Commission and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. The strength of TSTC's institutional programs rests in the strong relationships each campus has with business and industry. Each instructional program is supported by an advisory council with members from the industry served by the program. According to the statistics from the Office of Governor Perry, the energy sector contributes more than $172 billion in Texas' economy, and that number is growing every year. The growth is fueled in part by the use of new technology such as hydraulic fracking and horizontal drilling. Nearly 900,000 Texans are employed in the energy sector today. TSTC offers numerous instructional programs which are in high demand in the oil, gas, and wind industries and are booming in Texas. Although many of these programs support multiple industry sectors, they are also vital to the energy sector. There are 21 of these programs that provide that support. Many TSTC students in these programs are veterans, and the technical skills they master at TSTC complement their military training, resulting in a very high placement rate for these graduates. We've also developed specialized programs to allow veterans to accelerate their completion time by demonstrating the skills they mastered while in the service. One of those programs is the new competency-based educational initiative designed to shorten the time necessary to earn an award. This competency-based model does not sacrifice the quality of the skills learned. We began offering this competency-based approach in the fall in 2 of our locations. In conclusion, without exception, the colleges within the TSTC system are committed to serving U.S. military veterans. TSTC is also committed to finding innovative educational pathways for the efficient and cost-effective transition of these veterans into the workplace. Texas has long been a leader in the energy sector. However, recent growth in that sector has been exponential. That means veterans will continue to have access to a wide array of jobs. Our partnership with industry through advisory councils as well as collaborative efforts with industry to design specialized curriculum ensure that students graduate with job-ready skills that match or exceed industry standards. Therefore, when industry wants qualified workers, it comes to TSTC.
Thank you, Colonel Wooten. Mr. Everett, you're recognized, for up to 6.5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Flores and other committee members for this opportunity. My name is Tyrone Everett, and I'm the Regional Director with the Center for Employment Training. And my title is quite a handful because I cover the Midwest, Southwest, and East Coast operations, one of our training opportunities being in El Paso, Texas. CET is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that has been providing job training, human development, and job placements for over 47 years to hard-to-serve trainees. In the past 47 years, we've placed over 135,000 men and women, including veterans, in marketable living wage careers. The primary purpose of our organization is to train people for full-time jobs and get them into the workforce. Our experience over 47 years is that most people would prefer to be independent and have control of their lives. Instead of training more and more job seekers in green energy sector skills, our decision-making about what we train in is driven by our market sector and our private partnership with the industry. All of our skills are driven by what's called a technical advisory committee that is comprised of industry experts that come in and tell us what is going on in the green sector, both locally and on the regional level, because we find that many of our veterans work and play across county lines. This way, we are able to remain flexible, and we are able to move in and out of skills as we saturate the market. We will not train in a skill wherein we have saturated the market. We will move out of that skill by training the final class and then moving into a new skill. And we are looking more and more at the energy sector. In fact, what our technical advisory committee members are saying is that we're going to see more and bigger diversity in the green sector field, not only in just heating and cooling, but also in the medical field as well. Currently, we serve about 7% veterans of all of our trainees, and increasingly we are seeing more and more of them come through our doors, and we embrace that opportunity. We hope that we get to see more. All 15 of our centers in 5 different states are approved by the VA to serve veterans. And what we have found is that in some ways the veteran is very easy to train because they come motivated, they usually have higher education levels, but they can also be the most challenging because frequently veterans that have served in combat, and particularly who've just come out of combat, come with some special needs, and that as a result makes it challenging to train. And I'll get back to that a little bit later. And I would like to say that providing quality training in new and growing demand green skills and in construction or in the green and heating and cooling technology is enough to successfully train and transition veterans from military service to civilian work. Yet more is required to equip veterans with the skills and tools to obtain and maintain and retain their meaningful employment. The other component that is necessary for success is applied resources, specifically immediate intensive supportive services while they're in training that can address the pressure that readjustment to civilian life can show for our recently released combat veterans. CET, we take this head on because we are a comprehensive training model that addresses barriers to training as the individual is in training. Our approach in green technology training uses hands-on contextual model that provides skills training in a simulated workplace and an environment. All of our instructors are hired from the industry. Students clock in and they clock out just like they might if they were at work. And from the very beginning, they begin to put their hands on the machines and tools that allow them to learn. But the most important key to our training is the certification. Without proper certification, we find that our veterans and our trainees do not get the jobs. So all of our training and certification is industry specific. In closing, I want to get back to what I stated previously about the importance of applied immediate resources. Boots on the ground, what we're seeing and what we're witnessing is that our veterans need to get to their benefits quicker. We're seeing that it's taken some time too long for them to access those barriers, access those benefits that take down the barriers and remove those barriers into training and subsequently into employment. To this end, we have only one recommendation to the VA, and that is within the first 90 days, that is very key, that is very crucial, that they are able to get their transportation resources, particularly their mental health resources and their housing vouchers, so that they have those barriers out of the way and can focus on training. And so in that manner, I wanted to say in closing, we must all give them the efforts and have the same sense of commitment and dedication that they have shown in the service of their country. We all know that they have earned it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Everett, for your testimony. I now recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes for his opening statements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate this opportunity to do this. I want to begin by thanking Chairman Miller of the full committee and Ranking Member Michaud of the full committee for their bipartisan efforts in seeking to address allegations made regarding the Department of Veterans Affairs wait lists. I know we all look forward to the forthcoming report by the Inspector General. Our veterans deserve the best, and we will continue to work hard for them and their families. And today, we seek to look at another issue affecting veterans, and that is employment. Mr. Chairman, thank you for calling this hearing on veterans' employment and training programs in the energy sector. I was pleased to hear some of the testimony so far about how veterans can use their military experience to find meaningful work in the energy sector. Traditionally, veterans have had some difficulty in translating their military skill set into the civilian workforce. The witnesses here today have all dedicated themselves to helping bridge that gap through training and employment and employing veterans who bring tangible skills to the table. I am looking forward to hearing our panelists speak and how they've successfully matched veterans with job opportunities. I'm also looking forward to hearing about what kinds of job opportunities are available for veterans. The energy industry continues to grow at an exponential rate in both traditional and renewable energy. Understanding the range of available jobs will give my fellow members and I a better perspective on the impact the industry can have for all of our veterans who are seeking employment. I would like to express my gratitude to all of these organizations, to all the organizations that are present today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for scheduling this hearing today, and I yield back.
I thank the ranking member, and I would now recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. The first question is, it starts out with a statement. I really think your approach to working with employers to ensure that the training you provide is up to date and marketable for the future success of veterans. And so my question for each of you is this, to start with, how often do each of you meet with employers to find out how to keep your curriculum up to date and on the leading edge? We'll start with Mr. Carr.
Okay, we actually have a few committees that do this. It's made up of the oil companies and the contractors. We have a group called the Operator Development Team and also a Contractor Development Team. And we also have industry regulatory experts on staff and that we reach out to. And so we just make sure we keep our ear to the ground. We know what the new regulations are, like the new silica change that came out recently, those types of things. So we also know, we pay attention to region. So in the Midwest or in the Northeast, middle region, you're not going to need water survival, that type of thing, unless some of those workers do transfer around. But that's how we do it. We are part of the curriculum committees for those groups, and so we're getting it firsthand from the actual companies and with regulatory bodies on board.
Okay, thank you. Colonel Wooten.
Yes, sir. We primarily do it through our programs. For instance, the welding program or the diesel program or the industrial maintenance program. Each of those would have committees or advisory committees, and we meet with them at least twice a year. We also then meet with associations like the Gulf Coast Energy Association that's made up of a lot of different components. And so we meet with those folks about twice a year also. And they always send representatives up, and sometimes we go down to their location to meet with them. So it's an ongoing process in actuality.
Okay. Mr. Everett.
Thank you. We have what's called a technical advisory committee that is comprised of the industry that they represent. Also, all of our instructors are people that we hire from the industry that are specific to a skill. For example, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. We'll hire an HVAC man or woman to actually train. We keep the current by looking at what's going on in the industry. The technical advisory committee meets once a quarter, so that's about 4 times a year that they meet. They come in and they look at the equipment and the tools, the software that we're using, and they, for the most part, give us their approval or say, no, we don't see that widget out here anymore, you got to change that. So we try to stay on the cutting edge of the technology and resources needed to complete a particular skill.
Okay. Mr. Carr, I don't think you said, Colonel Wooten said they met 2 times a year. Mr. Everett said they met 4 times per year. How many times per year does your organization meet with employers?
We have committee meetings that probably happen about once a quarter.
Okay.
And then the subcommittees for training curriculum meet probably once every 2 months or so. Okay.
Mr. Everett, you had mentioned that our veterans often have problems accessing their benefits. And I'm not sure I caught all of what you said. I think you said mental benefits, transportation benefits, and
yes,
housing. But are you talking about GI Bill benefits or broader than GI Bill benefits?
I'm talking about GI benefits. They often go back to their representatives locally to try to access those benefits, and sometimes the wait is rather extensive. And what we try to do at CET, because we are a holistic approach, we try to wrap around as many local services around them as we can to keep them in training, because we know that's where they want to be. But sometimes it promotes a challenge because local resources are sometimes limited. So we try to do our best to keep them in and propped up into training.
Okay. I appreciate your feedback on that. We're working also with the VA to try to create a better, more holistic way to get the benefits to the veterans in a quicker manner. And so we still have this tug of war to get that done.
Thank you.
Let's see, I had a question for Colonel Wooten. Let's go to Mr. Carr. Can you tell me about your placement rate? I mean, how many of the folks that come through your BTO program are actually getting jobs, and what's been the feedback of the veterans that have been placed in those jobs?
Sure. In 2013, which is when we started this program, we've been doing these types of programs since 2000. But in 2013, we placed 95%. And in so far this year, we're around 80%, but we're still, some of those people have just graduated. So,
okay. Mr. Everett, what's your placement rate?
Across the board, we're right at between 70 and 75% placement rate across the board. And we found, and you have one of our testimonies in my packet. Our veterans tend to be around the 90%.
Right.
If we can keep them in training. And they usually make anywhere from $2 to $3 more an hour over our other trainees once they graduate.
Well, I thank you all. I'm going to recognize the ranking member for 5 minutes for his questions. Mr. Takano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Carr, thank you for being here today. Can you tell me, are the credits that are earned by a student enrolled in a PEC program transferable?
Yes.
And are they transferable to both regionally accredited institutions as well as nationally accredited institutions?
Well, the credits that they earn through our programs are, first of all, they're industry recognized, and they are regulatory, they meet all regulatory requirements. A group like OSHA won't say, hey, you're certified, but they'll make sure that you meet those requirements. So where they are transferable is from company to company across the industry. You'll see if, ABC company hires someone, and that veteran has all that training, and they decide they want to go to XYZ, that training will transfer over. But it's not; these aren't college credits.
It's industry certification.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me the 5 items that the VA has asked PAC to address?
Yes, sir.
For their South Central Louisiana Technical College program?
Absolutely. And just so to be clear, the approval for the VA is through. We are contracted by South Central Louisiana Technical and Community College, but the findings were that they were. Let's see, the 85-15 rule about the public versus the, and so with that ruling, we actually have had, they put thousands and thousands of people through these programs, and we have too, we put over 500,000. But the way we package the VA program, that combination of courses has not had the 85-15. So we should be able to clear that up. They actually, one of them was that they put our corporate office location and said that it wasn't approved for proprietary license, but we don't do any training there, so that should be simple to clear up. They said that only one person, I believe, qualified through Chapter 31, and the rest were all GI Bill, post 9/11. One was that we're not, like I said earlier, we're not a proprietary school, so we weren't approved through the VA, so we were contracted by the one that has the school, the South Louisiana Technical College. And the other is, and I believe we talked to them about this ahead of time, but the food and lodging is part of what they do, because when they come, it's not like a semester where they go to college. They come to our class for basically right now a month straight. And so they're living in it. We've created an offshore environment to make sure they know what they're getting into. So they're living on site, they're eating there, they're training in that environment, they're living in the bunks just like they would in an offshore facility. So those were the 5 things.
Okay. Can you tell me how you propose to carve out an exception for the in-state 2-year requirements for PEC?
Yes, sir. We actually, well, the only way I would know, you talking about how I think we could solve that problem?
Yes.
We actually are working on that right now. I don't know how you get an exemption or anything like that from it. This is just kind of new for us. We just want to give veterans jobs, right? So we can partner with different schools that have had that proprietary license. But at the same time, these programs that we're teaching the veterans, it's really nothing new. It's things that we've been doing for years and years along with the school. We just haven't had it packaged in this exact way, and I think that's what's drawing the red flag on it.
Okay, thank you. Colonel Wooten, do you see a significant amount of your students who want to continue their education and receive a formal 4-year degree, academic degree? Or a significant number of your students wanting to go on to complete a 4-year degree?
That's possible.
Are the credits transferable? The credits earned by TSTC transferable to other institutions?
Yes, sir. We have a AAS degree, which is a standalone, typically viewed as a terminal degree because it may be in process operations. We also have articulation agreements with 12 other colleges and universities in Texas where they can take those with them, just like any other 2-year school, and get a bachelor's in applied science.
And are these typically regionally accredited schools?
Yes, sir. All of our schools are regionally accredited.
That's wonderful to hear. What is the, well, I need to ask, Mr. Everett, can you tell me about the transfer, how are your centers accredited? Can you just tell me that real quick?
Yes, we're accredited through the Council on Occupational Education out of Atlanta, Georgia, and all of our centers are also locally accredited by the state. Our credits are transferable to the local community colleges.
Well, that's good.
Yes, we are a post-secondary school. In fact, one of our categories of excellence is that we try to encourage them to continue along with working, but to continue their education so that they can turn their training into a career track.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Takano. Mr. Cook, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for testifying. And first of all, I'm going to ask you a question. You have a lot of experience in this area. I'm an employer, and I go to you, and I'm going to say, what are the 3 best things that veterans bring to the table when I'm looking at them for hiring? Anybody? Real quick answers? Yes, sir.
Work ethic, discipline, and dependability.
Everyone else agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I kind of figured that one. That one I had figured out. But there's a number of veterans that never make it through the process. Why do you think they wash out? What are the 3 things that, you know, somebody's looking at them, you know, everybody's patriotic, everything's, there's got to be something there. And what do you find? Is there a common denominator that comes across, either a stigma that's associated with veterans or what have you? I know this is a theoretical question, but there's got to be a reason why sometimes they can't put it down on paper or what have you, but there's got to be a reason why they don't get it. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Stress they carry back from combat. Some of the wounds that they have, you don't see them. Some of the wounds are not diagnosed. One of the ways we get around that or accommodate that would be a better term is that we have associations of veterans on our campus, and we find that when they're amongst their buddies and can share their stories and have people that they believe understand them better than an 18 or 19-year-old student would, they are more successful. And so we spend a lot of our time in what I call the care and feeding of our vets to make sure they feel like they belong, they have someone to talk to, and they have someone they can depend on.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes. Our 3 top barriers that we see is transportation, housing, and mental health. Because we provide wraparound services, sometimes our veterans, men and women, end up at the Department of Social Services, and that hurts their pride. They don't feel like they want to come and serve their country and then end up on welfare. That's not what they want. They feel like they're entitled to services as a result of being a vet, and that's where they prefer to get their resources. So we try to work very closely with our local VA to impress upon them that these young ladies and gentlemen, they're not just trying to rob the system. They need these services, and if you can help them, if you could do this in an expeditious manner, because that's the way they want to go. They want control of their lives.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would add to that. Part of, because there sometimes isn't that training in between their service and the job placement, that there's uncertainty from the veteran side where he or she may not know what they're getting into, but there's also a little bit of concern from the employer. When they go through the proper training, then they feel like, well, you know what, this person knows what they're getting into, and they've at least achieved this as far as the oil and gas side of things. So there's a comfort level there, too.
Let me ask you, based upon your answer there, and I think this is something that's happened in the last few years, that I do think there's a stigma because of post-traumatic stress disorder and everything else, that half the veterans that are come out of there are basket cases. And I think the VA, I think everyone in American society has encouraged that. Yeah, the military is stressful. Combat is stressful. But you got to suck it up, do your job, and get it done. And instead, we are conveying this attitude that everybody comes out and they can't handle it. I'm sorry. They had to handle it. And I think that negative approach has almost put a cloud over veterans in general, or, oh yeah, here's somebody that's got a problem, they're going to use drugs, or we have concentrated so much on the problems that we have forgotten the hundreds of thousands of people that came out that were successful. And I think sometimes, and we do it in here, we're always looking at the negative instead of all these positive things, which has skewed maybe some of our outlooks. So that was a statement, but I want to thank you very much for testifying. I'm almost done. Thank you.
Colonel Kirkhope, thank you for your questions. I thank the first panel for their testimony. We appreciate what you're doing for our nation's veterans, and we ask you to keep up the good work and keep the committee and the subcommittee informed as to your successes and your challenges. Mr. Everett, I appreciate you talking about some of the issues that our veterans face with respect to GI Bill benefits. So keep us posted as you see things change moving forward. With that, this panel is excused, and we're going to invite the second panel to come to the witness table. On our second panel, we have Mr. Jay Hawkins, who's the Vice President for Human Resources for Chesapeake Energy, Mr. Mark Sabo, Team Lead for Military Recruiting at Baker Hughes, and who also served in U.S. Army Reserve Military Police Corps. We thank you for your service. And finally, we have Mr. John Simon, Senior Vice President for Human Resources at Pacific Gas and Electric Company, here on behalf of the Center for Energy Workforce Development. Thank each of you for joining us today. Mr. Hawkins, you're now recognized for 5 minutes for your testimony.
Chairman Flores and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity today to discuss Chesapeake Energy Corporation's Veterans Hiring Program, which has become a remarkable success story for our company. I'm Jay Hawkins, Vice President of Human Resources for Chesapeake. Chesapeake is based in Oklahoma City and is the nation's second largest producer of natural gas and the 11th largest producer of oil and natural gas liquids. We are proud to have helped lead the way in what has become known as the oil and gas shale revolution. This domestic supply revolution has taken place across the U.S., creating jobs, generating significant economic activity, and changing our nation's energy future. This includes reducing our dependence on foreign oil and helping offer energy solutions for some of our allies around the world. I'm here today because as a part of our success in recent years, our company is also a top employer of veterans as well as members of the Reserve and Guard. I'm honored to say that these employees represent about 11% of our total employee base. This is especially significant as this hiring has occurred during a recessionary period when many tens of thousands of veterans were returning home seeking employment. Of note, the average annual salary of these veterans at Chesapeake is $61,500. Our efforts to recruit military servicemen and servicewomen began in 2008. But what originally started as a small component of our recruiting efforts quickly grew into an organic success. Our targeted recruiting outreach has resulted in the current employment of about 1,200 veterans or members of the Guard or Reserve in positions ranging from rig hands to engineers. In fact, of the nearly 3,000 employees hired by Chesapeake in 2013, about 200 were members of the Guard or Reserve and 230 were veterans. Initially, Chesapeake recruited only junior military officers, lieutenants, and captains retiring from the service in specialized positions, but we quickly expanded our efforts to include hiring former enlisted personnel to work in the field, realizing these men and women could be a natural fit. For instance, many maintenance and electronic technicians were trained in the military, and we were able to naturally transition their experience to the oil and gas industry. Our specific recruitment efforts include participation in veteran recruiting fairs. Chesapeake attended about 50 in 2013, and a veterans-only email address where military candidates can contact our recruiters directly. In total, 15% of our 2013 recruiting budget was dedicated to recruiting veterans. The result of the continued success of our program is that today we plan to add military veterans in locations across the country, including Ohio, Oklahoma, Texas, Pennsylvania, and Louisiana, in positions like field engineers, environmental health and safety representatives, pumpers, equipment operators, business analysts, and rig hands. Once hired, Chesapeake works hard to help our veteran employees during their transition. In 2011, we created CHK Troop Connect, an online community where employees with military affiliation and their families can connect and support each other as they transition to civilian life and begin new careers. CHK Troop Connect offers Guard, Reserves, and Veterans employees and employees with military family members opportunities to connect with each other, plan activities, and share stories. This group hosts networking events, community service projects, welcome home and farewell gatherings, and other military-focused activities. We understand this support and continued transition assistance is vital. Moreover, just this month, we were pleased to announce a new military differential pay benefit for all full-time Chesapeake employees who have completed at least 1 year of employment and are called to active duty or military training for 30 or more days. Under this benefit, our company will pay the difference between an eligible employee's Chesapeake salary and his or her military pay as a lump sum amount upon return to work. While we know that veterans have an unmatched work ethic, commitment to teamwork, and leadership skills, we now directly benefit from these skills and contributions on a daily basis. Our CEO said to our employees on Veterans Day 2013, when senior management and supervisors also presented each service member with a commemorative coin in individual ceremonies, and I quote, "These individuals provide strength, stability, and commitment to our company, in addition to the diverse skills and expertise that are essential to our success." Mr. Chairman, you have certainly seen the economic and job creation results firsthand in your home state of Texas, and as a number of members of this subcommittee have seen in your own states, the timing of the growth of our industry has made this particularly great news. Unlike most industries, the oil and gas industry has experienced growth during a recessionary period, and the outlook for jobs only looks brighter in the future. In summary, our veterans hiring efforts have truly proven to be a win-win for our company and for the many men and women of our armed services, and now have found exciting and rewarding careers with Chesapeake. We are proud that this program provides a solution for our needs as well as our returning veteran employment needs, all while continuing to advance what has become one of the nation's greatest stories, the oil and gas shale revolution. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to be with you here today. I look forward to any questions.
Mr. Hawkins, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Sabo, did I say that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Takano, members of the subcommittee, good afternoon. I am Mark Sabo, team lead for the military recruiting program at Baker Hughes Incorporated. As someone who spent 16 years in service with the U.S. Army Reserve, I feel extraordinarily privileged to have made a career out of attracting our veterans to the energy sector. I thank you for the great honor of appearing before you today. Baker Hughes is a leading supplier of oil field services, products, systems, and technology to the worldwide oil, natural gas, and geothermal industries. While we work in nearly 80 countries, approximately half of more than our 58,000 employees are based here in the United States, where we conduct the majority of our manufacturing, field services, and research and development. It is here in the United States that advanced exploration and production technologies have perhaps had the most dramatic effect on increasing oil and natural gas supplies. This growth brings tremendous job opportunities at a time when a large number of servicemen and women are leaving the military. My mission and that of the entire Baker Hughes military recruiting team is to bring the immense talents and work ethic of our men and women in uniform to bear on energy production. This makes good business sense to us, but in the words of our CEO, Martin Craighead, welcoming our veterans home to meaningful, well-paid jobs is simply the right thing to do. Baker Hughes has long sought veterans for our field work where the value of their experience is easily apparent. Mechanical assembly, field operations, machining, repair and maintenance, and logistical coordination all fit within this category. However, we seek out veteran applicants at all levels of the company, including in corporate and enterprise positions, because we believe that military service fosters core values that align very well with Baker Hughes' core values of integrity, teamwork, performance excellence, learning, and courage. Almost all the members of my team are veterans themselves, and we bring that experience to bear on our approach to recruiting. We have developed a multi-pronged approach to ensure that we are reaching veterans at every stage of the transition to the private sector. We reach out to current servicemen and women at military installations throughout the U.S. and to veterans by participating in military-specific job fairs. We also partner with several universities with high veteran populations as well as state veteran workforce commissions. We encourage veterans who are already members of the Baker Hughes community to refer their former colleagues. In 2013, we conducted a total of 60 military recruiting events, with that face-to-face contact translating directly into 175 hires, with many more hires coming through traffic driven to our recruiting website. Our intention is to more than double that number in 2014. I am pleased to report that so far we are on that pace. We held 23 military recruiting events in the first quarter of 2014, hiring an additional 145 veterans. We are essentially hiring a veteran a day. We believe it is important to continue that engagement beyond the hiring process to maintain it as a consistent thread in our employees' experience. To that end, we have established a Veterans Resource Group to support veterans transitioning to Baker Hughes from active duty and to connect them with each other and with mentors within the company, creating a vibrant network for continuing professional and personal development. This program has been enormously popular since its launch in 2013. 17 local chapters have already been established in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and many more are underway in places like California, Colorado, and North Dakota. It will come as no surprise to the subcommittee that these chapters, once formed, turn their focus almost instantly to making a difference in the lives of other veterans. Baker Hughes also believes strongly in supporting those employees who continue to serve our country in the military reserves. We have policies in place to ensure our National Guard and Reserve employees are aware of and receive their benefits. As our employees are called up, Baker Hughes pays the difference between their base salary with us and their military base pay, from 30 days annually for training up to 180 days for an involuntary call to active duty. Baker Hughes was recently recognized with an ESGR Pro Patriot Award in New Mexico, and I am proud to say that the company is a finalist for the 2014 Secretary of Defense Employer Support Freedom Award. Like our Veterans Resource Group, this is a good program made great through the dedication and spirit of our employees. We applaud the subcommittee for shining a light on the opportunities available to veterans in the energy industry, and we are pleased to do our part. I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Sabo, thank you for your testimony. Mr. Simon, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman, members of the subcommittee, good afternoon. My name is John Simon. I oversee human resources for Pacific Gas and Electric Company, or PG&E. Today I'm representing both PG&E and the Center for Energy Workforce Development, CEWD. PG&E is one of the largest combined natural gas and electric utilities in the country. We serve about 15 million people in Northern and Central California. My job is to provide the talent we need to deliver energy safely, reliably, and affordably to our customers. At PG&E, we work closely with CEWD, a nonprofit group of utilities and trade associations that together partner with labor to address the pending workforce shortages facing our industry. 4 years ago, CEWD and the Edison Electric Institute launched the Troops to Energy Jobs program. The program was piloted by 6 utilities across the U.S., including PG&E. Its purpose is to connect veterans to utility jobs. CEWD projects that as many as 200,000 electric and gas utility workers are eligible to retire in the next 5 years. That's about 40% of the utility workforce, worth repeating, 40% of the utility workforce. Beyond these retirements, thousands more workers will be needed: engineers, technicians, line workers, plant and system operators, mechanics, welders, cyber experts, and that's because the utility industry expects to invest nearly $2 trillion to enhance and modernize energy infrastructure over the next decade. At the same time, veterans are returning from active duty and having trouble finding jobs. And it was the Department of Veterans Affairs that determined about 190,000 active duty personnel will leave the military annually over the next 25 years. The need for a highly skilled utility workforce plus a pipeline of qualified veterans truly creates a win-win opportunity. We need to act, and we need to do it now. Our industry has been a leader in veterans hiring. We know the return on the investment. Veterans have the training and skills we require, from their expertise to their inherent sense of safety, duty, and leadership. That's why in 2013, PG&E hired more than 150 veterans, and since 2010, veterans comprise more than 7% of our overall hires. It's a bit closer to 8% now. These numbers increase when considering veterans PG&E trained yet placed at other companies. We believe the right approach to hiring veterans is a holistic approach used by companies like those participating in Troops to Energy jobs. It includes strategies to identify, train, hire, retain veterans, and, like my colleagues have said, to mentor them once they're hired. It starts by working with military bases to identify personnel with the right basic skills leaving the military, then translating these skills to energy jobs. In 2013, Troops to Energy launched a national template for veterans hiring. It is a roadmap that covers outreach, education, recruiting, and retention. It also has guidance on how to transfer military training to energy careers, on continuing education programs to gain new credentials or degrees, and it addresses strategies for identifying candidates with military experience. PG&E's approach to veteran training and hiring follows the Troops to Energy jobs roadmap. Our program is called Power Pathway, and through it, we run our Bridge to Utility Worker program targeting veterans. This program is conducted in partnership with community colleges, workforce investment boards, veterans groups, military bases, and labor to prepare veterans for jobs in the utility industry. It's an ecosystem that makes it work. Since 2008, more than 450 people have graduated from Power Pathway, including 250 veterans. Today, approximately 85% of graduates find employment either at PG&E or in the industry, usually with better retention rates based on someone not coming through the program. In addition to recruiting veterans, we are focused, like the others, on providing mentoring, coaching, training to help ensure we retain and grow the veterans we hire. In 2011, we established a Veterans Employee Resource Group to support PG&E employees with military backgrounds. It's now 700 employees strong in just 2 years. I'll conclude by summarizing what we believe is the most important thing in getting veterans hired and retained. It's actually things. Alignment of military and job classifications, getting information on which bases have personnel with the right skills, access to military personnel during the offboarding process, training programs with targeted veteran cohorts, and mentoring programs once hired. As an industry, we're very committed to the cause, and I thank you so much for having me here today.
Mr. Simon, thank you for your testimony. I'll recognize myself for the questions to begin. What is the, Mr. Hawkins, you talked about the average pay that a Chesapeake veteran makes. What's the average starting pay for a veteran coming into Chesapeake? Do you have that metric off the top of your head?
I don't have that exact metric. I would say it's in the 40s is most where our starting pay is. Okay.
Mr. Sabo, do you have those same metrics, average starting salary and average salary for veterans at Baker Hughes?
Unfortunately, sir, I don't have that data.
Okay. Would that be hard to get, to put together?
Probably not.
Okay. If you could send that supplementally to us later, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Mr. Simon, do you have that information for?
But as an example, an apprentice lineman would start at $52,000.
Golly, wow. That's pretty good. If you can supplementally provide the information for average starting salary for all veterans that you hire, and then their average for everybody in the company, if it's not proprietary for any of you, that would be very helpful, because it's always been my opinion that this is a great industry to build great middle-class jobs for hardworking Americans, particularly our veterans community. Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Sabo, you both talked about coming up with a pay differential of when Guard or Reserve units are called up. Mr. Simon, does PG&E do the same thing?
Yeah, we have a similar policy.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
Do any of you know what the aggregate amount is that you're paying for those pay differentials for each of your companies? Okay. If you can provide, Mr. Sabo.
Sir, that's going to depend on the individual's rank.
Right, but I mean in the aggregate, like does Baker Hughes, is that total for Baker Hughes $20 million a year or?
I wouldn't know that detail.
Okay, okay. If that's not hard to find, that'd be great. If it's, again, if it's proprietary, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. What, Mr. Simon, you talked a little bit about what would make it easier for PG&E to recruit vets, what the Veterans Administration and DOD could do to help make it easier. I'd like to have Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Sabo, if each of you could comment on what would make it easier for Chesapeake and Baker Hughes respectively to hire veterans.
You know, I think it's back to those wraparound services. I mean, we try to get our employees to benefits as soon as possible, but if anything that people, and especially veterans, struggle with is access to resources. Even though they know where they're, you know, they may have been provided a list, it's that follow-up wraparound services to check back and make sure that they're accessing the right things.
Okay. Mr. Sabo.
Yes, sir.
I believe that we're doing a very good job through the ACAP and TAP programs of preparing soldiers, servicemen for that transition. However, some of the pitfall that we see is that they don't have the appropriate certifications at the time that they're still in uniform. So by the time we actually see those individuals out at a military-specific job fair, we're trying to give them that information to go and obtain a certified, a CDL license, Class A with a hazmat certification. Some of them would like to go into project management, so we try to give them some directions on how to go down that road and obtain a PMP certification through the Project Management Institute. Those specific types of certifications for those specific types of opportunities that they're looking for, they seem to not be getting that information until they exit the service. So getting that information and perhaps giving them that training while they're still in uniform, I believe would streamline the process.
Okay. There's a category of state services. One is called Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialist, or DVOPS, and then another one is called Local Veteran Employment Representatives, or LVERS. Do any of your companies work with DVOPS or LVERS to try to find employees to add to your workforce?
I don't have the information off the top of my head. I'd like to send it to you if that's okay.
Okay, that'd be good.
As far as Chesapeake goes, we have dedicated recruiters that work strictly military recruiting, and they do utilize both of those.
Okay, they look to the state resources as well. Okay.
It's the same for Baker Hughes, sir.
Okay. Gentlemen, I appreciate your testimony. I'm going to yield my time to Mr. Takano for 5 minutes for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Simon, you may know that Congressman Cook and I are both sponsors of a bill that would try to replicate the success of our Work for Warriors program in California. Are you familiar with that program, and does PG&E work with them to place reservists and guardsmen?
We do, Mr. Takano. We do, Congressman.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. I wanted to ask you, currently, where are veterans being trained for jobs in the utility sector? Where are they being trained for jobs in your sector?
In our program, Power
Yes.
Pathway, they're trained at community colleges, which are sprinkled throughout our territory in Central and Northern California. There's several different community colleges.
Oh, so you work with the California community colleges for the training?
We do.
That's great. Mr. Hawkins, how much does the training institution matter when considering hiring a new employee? Does the institution where a new employee received their training factor into the hiring decision?
We do find that some institutions do provide additional training that others don't. We do partner with some mostly vocational technical schools for our field-based training.
And what kind of job training is available for your new hires once they are brought on board?
We do. We have specific field-based training that we do in-house, and if they're brought into a more technical role, professional level engineering role, we do have in-house as well as contracted services for training for professional development.
And when you contract out, are they also with the same technical schools or community colleges?
It varies. Basically, whatever it is required for the job. It could be around automation. It could be around a specific software. It could be equipment-based. So then we would be working with whoever our partner is in our field locations.
And is the cost associated with it picked up by the company, or is it shared with the employee?
No, it's a company expense.
Mr. Szabo, or is it Mr. Szabo?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Szabo, have you seen a difference between the quality of institutions where students are trained? Some good, or some better, some not so good?
Absolutely. There are quite a few universities that we partner with for our field engineer program. Obviously, they offer top-notch engineering types of degree programs. For our field specialist programs, we target two-year particular associate degree types of degrees. Also, we target the tech and trade schools. But as you previously asked the former panel, are they regionally accredited? Are they nationally accredited? We certainly look for those regional accredited schools.
So you have and why is it? Why do you look for that that sort of accreditation?
We just actually know that those certain accreditations, regional, are going through a very high academic rigorous standard.
And typically they're also fungible credits. They can your
That's
employees
correct.
can also layer another degree on top of
That
those
is
because they're
correct.
transferable.
That's correct.
That's great. Thank you so much. I yield back my time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Takano. Mr. Cook, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Simon, first of all, I'm going to be very parochial since you represent California and Pacific Gas and Electric and the West Coast. I was chair of the Veterans Committee out there, and your company, your corporation has done a great job for years, so I appreciate that. As well as the whole energy industry compared to some other people. I think they get it in terms of hiring veterans. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot after that. We might as well start with Mr. Simon. You got a month ago, you're going to retire, you're going to go to England, you're going to become a beekeeper like Sherlock Holmes. And somebody asked you the question, you know, when you had the job, what was the biggest problem with the federal government? Was it getting on bases, or were they giving you a runaround? You had nothing to lose, you're going out the door, and simple question, right? So could you?
The first problem is that I can't afford the taxes in England. But past that,
How do you pay them in California?
I understand the spirit of the question. I think the biggest issue that I would talk about is the lack of coordination between federal agencies, whether it's skills translation, getting access to military bases, whether it's having standardized credentials that are recognized by private companies like ours. We deal with the DOD, we deal with the DOE, we deal with the DOL, and I think, but to a much lesser extent, candidly, we deal with the VA, and it feels like the right hand might not know what the left hand's doing.
How about individual, I don't want to call out an individual service, but do you get to run around and trying to get on basis for job fairs? And this question is for everybody, because that I think we can kind of help you with, but sometimes, you know, certain bases or people get very bureaucratic in their approach to some of these things.
Yes, sir. Actually, a couple of my employees are still members of the Guard and Reserve, so fortunately they still have the ability to access the base with the ID in their pocket. However, there are times where we do need to access base with some hiring managers that would like to attend and make on-the-spot offers, and in that case, we're forced to obviously go through the visitor center, which takes a little bit more coordination. But I believe for the most part, it's been a pretty easy process for us to actually access base.
Yeah. Mr. Hawkins?
I can't really add to that. We have had no problems at all getting on base in any of the career fairs that we've attended.
Do you share that same concern about the right hand not knowing what's going on with the left hand?
It can appear that way from time to time, but not knowing what the exact circumstances are, it's hard to say.
Yeah. After being in the military for 26 years, sometimes it was very, very frustrating. But I think that is something we might be able to help in the future in terms of encouraging that cooperative effort when we have one goal and everything like that. But I appreciate it. As I said, I just want to say your industry seems to be very proactive in offering those jobs and accomplishing that. And I wish more. They talk a lot, but they don't do it. And I'm kind of a bottom line person. So thank you very much for being here. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We've been trying to work to get the VA and the Department of Labor to work together much more closely, and I don't know, hopefully we'll all still be alive when we get that accomplished. But anyway, I want to echo one of the statements that Mr. Cook said, and that is that your companies and organizations get it. And I think the three panelist organizations that were here on the first panel, that those organizations get it as well. And so we appreciate your testimony today. We appreciate what you do for America's hardworking veterans, and you're now excused. I want to thank everybody that attended the panel today and for the frank discussion on jobs in the energy sector. I now ask unanimous consent that the statement from the Veterans Green Jobs be submitted for the record. Hearing no objection, so ordered. Finally, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise the extended remarks and to include any extraneous material in the record of today's hearing. Hearing no objection, so ordered. And if there's nothing further, this hearing is adjourned.